Evelyn was 38, a quietly brilliant lead product strategist at a rising tech company in Austin, Texas. Unlike the flashy CEOs or charismatic speakers, Evelyn was the backbone, the one everyone trusted to turn ideas into flawless, scalable technology. For nearly a decade, she poured her soul into her work, valuing impact over applause. She wasn't one for office politics or public recognition. Her world revolved around code, systems, and solutions that could genuinely make a difference. While others chased titles and glory, Evelyn focused on creating something meaningful, a product that solved real problems for real people. But the late nights came at a cost. Her small apartment overlooking downtown Austin often witnessed her exhaustion as she missed birthdays, dinners, and precious moments with her teenage son. She told herself it was temporary, that the sacrifice would pay off someday. Little did she know, the very system she helped build would soon erase her, silently, invisibly, and without warning. 6 months earlier, Evelyn received a call from Gabriel, the company's CEO, a man whose charm was carefully calibrated, like the scripts from the leadership books he claimed to have read. Gabriel spoke in a low, confident voice, inviting her into a private meeting behind closed doors. Evelyn, he began, I have a huge opportunity. A game changer. A potential multi-million-dollar contract with a healthcare technology company that could skyrocket us to the next level. He laid out the plan with precision. Evelyn would quietly lead the project, no public announcements, no fanfare, no credit. Gabriel would be the architect in the spotlight, but she would build the engine behind the scenes. The project was secretive, high stakes, and potentially lucrative. If we pull this off, Gabriel promised, there will be a performance bonus and equity. This could be the last job you ever need to take. Evelyn didn't ask for contracts or paperwork. Her trust in Gabriel and loyalty to the company clouded her judgment. After nearly 10 years of dedication, she wanted to believe someone finally saw her worth. She took the challenge with quiet determination. The next 6 months were a grueling blur. Evelyn poured every waking hour into the project. She designed a secure, cutting-edge data integration system to manage sensitive patient records across 5 states. She rewrote the entire back-end infrastructure from scratch, implementing new protocols to safeguard privacy and ensure scalability. Vacation days became distant memories. Weekends were spent at her desk, nursing strong coffee and tired eyes. Dinner invitations from her son were declined 3 times a week as she worked late into the night. Her apartment grew silent except for the hum of her computer and the clatter of her keyboard. One night, Evelyn came home exhausted around 2:30 a.m. She saw a missed FaceTime call from her son and a message, Mom, are you coming to my dance recital tomorrow? I saved you the middle seat so you can see me spin. Her heart ached, but she had a 6 a.m. call scheduled. She set an alarm, closed her eyes, and whispered to herself, after this project, things will change. They didn't. 3 weeks after the company secured the $3 million contract, Evelyn noticed the first signs of erasure. Gabriel stopped replying to her emails. The promised performance bonus never arrived. The equity? No paperwork, no explanations. HR told her there was no formal agreement. The final blow came at the investor showcase. Gabriel introduced a junior developer, Lucas, a fresh-faced college graduate barely a year in the industry, as the technical visionary behind the healthcare platform. Evelyn's heart twisted. That was her system, her months of sleepless nights. But the spotlight belonged to someone else. For a long time, Evelyn tried to stay calm, convincing herself it was a mistake or a misunderstanding. She showed up to meetings, continued leading her team, but inside, a quiet ache grew, not from anger, that would come later, but from a deep sense of betrayal and invisibility. One Friday afternoon, Evelyn knocked on Gabriel's office door. He barely looked up. Got a minute? She asked, voice steady but brittle. He nodded without stopping typing. I wanted to check on the bonus we discussed. The equity, it's been nearly a month since the launch, she said carefully. Gabriel finally looked up and smiled, a cold, dismissive smile. Oh, that, Evelyn, you've done well, really, but there's been a misunderstanding. No formal agreement, no signed document. We talked about it being after the project, and it was never guaranteed. Evelyn's stomach dropped. You said, I said a lot of things. He interrupted with a patronizing laugh. We were under pressure. You rose to the occasion. But at the end of the day, performance is measured across the whole company, not one project. The words hit Evelyn like a punch. Everything she sacrificed, her health, her family, her late nights, was dismissed like it was nothing. She left his office with a frozen smile and walked past colleagues who had once shared her late nights. Past the framed photo of their team retreat she had helped organize. Feeling more alone than ever. By Monday, things worsened. She was removed from client email threads. The engineering lead started reporting to someone else. Her access to the codebase she had written was suddenly restricted for restructuring. At the company's monthly update meeting, Lucas stood front and center, proudly presenting the platform she had built. Evelyn's name was never mentioned. She left early, her heart pounding, and sat in the stairwell replaying every word, every gesture. The rising star had stolen not just her credit, but her identity. Sleepless nights followed, anxiety attacks beginning at 4 a.m., fueled not by lost bonuses but by the deeper theft of her dignity and value. She remembered a drive home through blurred city lights and whispered, "What if I never mattered here at all?" Determined not to disappear without a fight, Evelyn began documenting everything: emails, code commits, project plans. That's when she found the crucial legal note she had bookmarked months before, in the absence of a signed IP transfer agreement. Intellectual property belongs to the creator by default. Her heart raced. She hadn't signed any such agreement. The discovery was a lifeline, a spark of hope amid the betrayal. Weeks later, Lucas was promoted to product innovation lead, moving into the corner office next to Gabriel. A shiny new nameplate gleamed with Lucas's name. Evelyn stood across the hallway, coffee in hand, staring at it like a slap in the face. Lucas approached her casually, mentioning he was now managing some of her documentation and that she was stepping back. Evelyn was stunned. No memo, no conversation, just replaced. She sat trembling at her desk, answering emails like a ghost trying to prove she was still there. That afternoon, an internal leadership luncheon invitation arrived, for everyone except her. She closed her laptop and walked out. That night, Evelyn found an old photo album of her son's preschool days, the birthdays, the recitals, the laughter she had missed chasing a promise that never came. She realized she'd traded presents for recognition and had ended up with neither. The final humiliation came at an all-hands meeting where a video montage of the healthcare platform launch played. Lucas appeared in every frame, explaining the system Evelyn had built, using her exact words and mimicking her gestures. Evelyn fled before the applause. She drove for hours, ending up in front of her late mother's house. Sitting in her car, she recalled her mother's words: "If they take your work, they take nothing. But if they take your belief in yourself, they take everything." Evelyn realized it wasn't just her work stolen, it was her reflection of it. And she had allowed it. The next morning, she arrived early at the office, coffee in hand, and returned to that legal note, this time reading every clause with fierce focus. She backed up every file, email, prototype, and timestamped draft into a secure private folder. For the first time in months, she felt a pulse of power. Evelyn's meticulous documentation and relentless determination had begun to shift the invisible scales. After countless late nights compiling evidence, she finally reached out to an old friend, Nina, a sharp, no-nonsense tech attorney she'd met years ago at a Women in Leadership conference. Nina had a reputation for cutting through corporate BS like a scalpel. Evelyn explained everything in detail: the missing IP agreement, the stolen credit, the silent sidelining. Nina's voice hardened with conviction. "Evelyn, this isn't just a workplace grudge. They're using your software without a signed intellectual property transfer. That's not just unethical, it's potentially catastrophic for them. If they're already generating revenue off it, you have real leverage." For the first time in weeks, Evelyn felt a flicker of hope, not the desperate kind, but the focused, fierce kind. Nina's words ignited a spark of clarity. "You're not powerless," Nina reminded her. "You just forgot how powerful you really are." Evelyn nodded quietly to herself that night in her dim apartment, staring into the bathroom mirror. She wasn't the invisible woman anymore. She was the architect, the creator, the force they'd tried to erase but couldn't. The plan was clear. First, she would strengthen her case with airtight documentation. She uploaded everything to a secure cloud folder marked "Evidence, Do Not Touch," and gave Nina exclusive access. Every email thread, every code commit, every design mock-up bore her initials and timestamps. She even had Zoom transcripts from early design meetings where Gabriel himself praised her work as revolutionary. When Nina reviewed the files, She laughed, a short, satisfied sound. This is airtight. I've seen companies sued for less. But they weren't rushing to court yet. Instead, Nina drafted a cease and desist letter. Carefully worded and legally authoritative. It was addressed to Gabriel and the company's legal team, outlining the facts clearly. Evelyn was the sole creator of the healthcare platform's core system. No IP transfer had been signed, and any further use without her written consent would be a violation of intellectual property law. They gave the company 7 business days to respond. Evelyn stared at the screen, heart pounding. When Nina hit send, the tension was palpable. For the first time, she felt her spine straighten. This was real. This was her taking back control. The response came, not from Gabriel, but the company's general counsel. A thinly veiled attempt to intimidate, claiming Evelyn had acted within her scope of employment and thus had no claim to ownership. But the glaring omission? No signed IP transfer agreement, because there wasn't one. Nina scoffed. They're bluffing. They know they don't have the paperwork. That's why they aren't threatening to sue first. They're scared you'll file first. It was surreal. The very people who'd made her feel small were now scrambling behind closed doors. The power dynamics had flipped. Evelyn didn't stop there. Quietly, she reached out to the healthcare client, an influential CTO who had overseen the $3 million contract. They met over coffee in a bustling Austin cafe. Evelyn laid out her evidence calmly, showing every proof of authorship and legal footing. The CTO's face paled. You built all this? And they're selling it without the legal right to do so? Evelyn nodded. He rubbed his jaw, clearly unsettled. We don't want to get caught in a legal battle. If you had your own company, we'd much rather work with you directly. Her heart raced. Wait, are you saying you'd consider switching to work with me? Not them? Consider, he said cautiously. We'd prefer it. That night, Evelyn sat at her desk, hands trembling with possibility, not fear. She filed paperwork to form her own LLC, naming it Northbridge Insight, a tribute to the architecture framework she had designed, symbolizing strength and connection. The process felt surreal. Setting up a domain, opening business accounts, drafting contracts. But beneath the paperwork was something deeper, a rebirth of her identity and power. Gabriel still believed she was quietly licking wounds in silence, while he fought to protect his title. Evelyn was quietly building a new legacy. Less than 3 weeks after forming Northbridge Insight, Evelyn received a formal request for proposal, not addressed to her old company, but directly to her. The healthcare client was ready to cut ties with Gabriel's firm and start fresh with Evelyn. She took her time drafting the proposal, with Nina's guidance ensuring every clause was airtight: scope, pricing, legal ownership, terms of service. She wasn't just reclaiming what was hers, she was setting the terms. When the proposal was submitted, Evelyn braced for resistance. Instead, the client signed within 4 days. 4 days. The contract exceeded her wildest expectations, not only the original platform work but a retainer for ongoing improvements and innovation. The news hit Gabriel like a hammer blow. That same day, he learned from his firm that the client was terminating their $3 million contract immediately, citing legal risks and compliance issues. It was chaos. Overnight, the company's projections shattered, investors grew restless, and Gabriel's empire began to crumble. 2 days later, Evelyn received a call from Sarah, a project manager who had quietly supported her through the turmoil. Evelyn, Sarah's voice trembled. What did you do? Evelyn smiled softly. I took back what was mine. Sarah laughed, part disbelief, part awe. Gabriel is losing it. He stormed out of the last board meeting. Investors are threatening to pull out. Evelyn didn't celebrate out loud, but inside she felt whole for the first time in years. The company soon issued a bland internal memo announcing leadership changes and restructuring. Gabriel was out, disgraced, silenced, and stripped of power. No farewell party, no public thank you, just an empty office and a shattered legacy. A week later, Evelyn walked back into the building, but this time, not as an employee, but as the CEO of the partner company. Every eye in the lobby turned to her, shock, guilt, grudging respect. Lucas, the rising star, looked stunned as he passed by. Evelyn smiled, calm and resolute. No revenge, no bitterness, just the quiet power of a woman who had taken her voice back and reclaimed her place. Stepping into the glass-walled conference room as the new CEO of Northbridge Insight, Evelyn felt a strange calm wash over her. This was not the Evelyn who had once felt invisible. overlooked, and betrayed. This was a woman reborn, armed with proof, purpose, and an unshakable belief in her own worth. Around the table sat board members, legal advisors, and executives from the healthcare client's side. There was a palpable shift in the air: respect, curiosity, even a hint of admiration. Gone were the days when she was relegated to the shadows. Now, she commanded the room with quiet confidence. As she presented the transition plan, every slide, every chart, every word underscored the value she had always brought to the project. There were no raised voices or dramatic flourishes, just clarity, precision, and unwavering professionalism. One senior advisor leaned forward, eyes locking with hers. "Evelyn, we should have been working with you all along," he said, his tone sincere. She nodded, a small smile touching her lips. "You still can," she replied. That moment crystallized everything she had fought for, not just the contract or the money, but respect and recognition for the work she had poured her heart into. After the meeting, Evelyn found herself reflecting on how far she'd come. The journey had been painful, humbling, and at times isolating, but it had also been transformative. She remembered the early days, when she first took the job at Gabriel's company. She'd been eager, driven by a belief that hard work alone would earn her a place at the table. She hadn't realized how deeply office politics and self-promotion influenced who got seen and who got sidelined. Her initial reaction to betrayal was shock, then a simmering anger that threatened to consume her. But with time, Evelyn understood that the problem wasn't just about credit or money, it was about identity and self-worth. She had let herself be invisible because she'd been silent too long. She'd waited for others to validate her, to recognize her value, instead of owning it herself. That realization sparked a profound change in her perspective. Evelyn now saw her experience not as a defeat, but as a lesson in resilience and self-empowerment. She began mentoring young women in tech, sharing her story openly. "Don't wait for anyone to see you," she told them. "Claim your space, protect your work, and never underestimate the power you hold." Her own team at Northbridge Insight grew quickly, fueled by the same values Evelyn championed: transparency, respect, and authentic leadership. She cultivated an environment where contributions were acknowledged, ideas were celebrated, and everyone felt seen. Even Lucas, the junior developer who had once replaced her in the spotlight, reached out tentatively, seeking advice on navigating the corporate maze. Evelyn, with a mix of compassion and firmness, shared what she'd learned. Outside of work, her relationship with her son blossomed. She made a conscious effort to be present, attending every recital, every birthday party, and every school event she had missed before. The guilt of lost moments remained, but it was tempered by the knowledge that she was reclaiming her time and presence now. Evelyn also discovered new depths of strength within herself. The fight to regain her voice had awakened a passion for justice, not just for herself but for others who had been overlooked or exploited. She became an advocate for intellectual property rights within the tech community, pushing for clearer policies and protections for creators. One evening, as she tucked her son into bed, he looked up and said softly, "Mom, you smile more now. It's like you're really happy." She kissed his forehead and whispered, "I am, because I'm finally being me." But the change wasn't just personal, it was systemic. Evelyn noticed subtle shifts in how her former company operated. Without Gabriel's leadership, the culture grew strained, investors wavered, talent churned. The company that once dismissed her had to reckon with the consequences of ignoring and undervaluing the people who actually built its success. For Evelyn, the journey underscored a vital truth: success isn't just about titles or paychecks. It's about being recognized as the person you are and the value you bring. It's about walking into a room and owning your story, flaws, scars, and all. Her experience had taught her that sometimes, you have to let go of illusions and fight for clarity. You have to stop shrinking to fit into spaces that weren't made for you and start building spaces where you, and others, can thrive. That was the real victory. And while Evelyn's path was uniquely hers, she hoped her story would inspire others to find their voice and claim their rightful place. Because too many talented, brilliant people stay silent, waiting to be seen. But sometimes, the greatest power comes from standing up and saying, "I am here. I matter. And this is mine." The morning after the pivotal meeting, Evelyn woke with a renewed sense of purpose. The air in her new office at Northbridge Insight felt different, charged with possibility and the weight of responsibility. She glanced at the framed photograph on her desk. A candid shot of her and her son at his last dance recital. It was a reminder of what she was fighting for, not just a career, but a life rebuilt on her own terms. The contract with the healthcare client was a monumental win. But Evelyn knew it was just the beginning. The real work lay ahead, proving that she could not only build platforms but lead a company that inspired innovation, trust, and collaboration. Evelyn's first order of business was assembling a core team. She sought out talent who shared her vision, a blend of experienced professionals and fresh thinkers, all united by a passion for creating technology that made a difference. Among them was Maya, a brilliant software architect who had quietly been watching Evelyn's journey unfold and reached out with an offer to join. Maya's arrival was like a breath of fresh air. She brought technical expertise and a fiercely optimistic spirit that reignited the team's energy. Together, they began refining the platform, incorporating user feedback and anticipating future healthcare trends. But beyond product development, Evelyn knew the company's culture had to be intentional. At her previous job, she had witnessed how toxic dynamics could quietly erode morale and stifle creativity. Northbridge Insight would be different. She implemented open forums where every voice could be heard, championed transparent decision-making, and made work-life balance a priority, especially for parents like herself. She encouraged her team to bring their whole selves to work, fostering an environment where mistakes were seen as opportunities for growth, not reasons for punishment. As the weeks passed, contracts began to flow in, not just from the original client but new partners intrigued by Northbridge Insight's fresh approach and Evelyn's reputation for integrity and innovation. The company's revenue steadily grew, and so did its influence in the healthcare tech space. One afternoon, Evelyn received an unexpected call from Sarah, the former project manager at Gabriel's company who had supported her quietly all along. "Evelyn," Sarah said, voice tinged with excitement, "I've been talking with some colleagues, and there's a lot of buzz about Northbridge Insight. People are impressed by what you're building." Evelyn smiled. "That means a lot. We're working hard to make sure this is just the beginning." Sarah hesitated, then added, "There's been talk about restructuring over here. Some folks are wondering if maybe they underestimated you." Evelyn's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Maybe, but I'm focused on moving forward, not looking back." That night, as she reviewed the day's progress, Evelyn reflected on how far she had come, from the shadows of invisibility to the forefront of innovation. The road hadn't been easy. She had faced betrayal, doubt, and isolation, but those challenges had sharpened her resolve and clarified her vision. More importantly, they had taught her that true success was about more than just personal achievement. It was about creating a legacy, one that uplifted others, championed fairness, and embraced authenticity. Her son noticed the change too. One evening, as she tucked him in, he looked up with wide eyes. "Mom, you're really happy now. It's like you're glowing." Evelyn laughed softly, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "I am, because I'm doing what I love, and finally, it feels like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be." With her company gaining momentum, Evelyn also dedicated time to mentorship programs, especially for young women in tech. She shared her story openly, hoping to inspire others to claim their power and demand respect. At a recent conference, she delivered a keynote titled, "Reclaiming Your Narrative," weaving her personal journey with lessons on resilience, self-advocacy, and the importance of standing firm in your worth. The standing ovation at the end wasn't just for her success but for the authenticity and courage she embodied. Back at Northbridge Insight, the team was preparing to launch the next iteration of their healthcare platform, one that incorporated AI-driven analytics to predict patient needs and improve outcomes. Evelyn knew the stakes were high, but the excitement was palpable. This wasn't just about technology, it was about changing lives. Late one evening, as she packed up to leave the office, her phone buzzed with a message from the healthcare client's CTO. "Looking forward to the future with Northbridge Insight. Thanks for leading the way." Evelyn smiled, her heart full. The journey from erased to empowered was complete, but the adventure was only just beginning. Evelyn's transformation from a sidelined strategist to a confident CEO was not just about external success, it was an internal journey of growth, healing, and reclaiming her identity. The battle she fought was painful, but it forged within her a resilience and clarity that shaped the woman she had become. In the early days at Northbridge Insight, Evelyn wrestled with lingering doubts, memories of betrayal, the sting of invisibility, and the heavy weight of lost time shadowed her thoughts. She often caught herself in moments of self-questioning, wondering if she was truly capable of leading a company, of stepping into the spotlight she'd once shunned. But each day, as she faced challenges head-on, negotiating contracts, guiding product development, and mentoring her team, her confidence deepened. She learned to trust her instincts and voice, no longer shrinking to fit expectations that weren't hers. One particularly pivotal moment came during a tough negotiation with a prospective client. Evelyn entered the meeting with a proposal that reflected months of work, careful strategy, and clear value. Yet, the client pushed back hard on pricing and timelines, testing her resolve. In the past, Evelyn might have backed down, conceding to keep the peace or avoid conflict. But this time, she stood firm. She calmly articulated the worth of her team's work, the unique innovation behind their platform, and the long-term benefits for the client. Her steady confidence shifted the room. The client agreed, not just to the deal but to a partnership built on respect and transparency. That day, Evelyn realized growth wasn't about perfection, it was about embracing discomfort, standing your ground, and learning from every challenge. Outside the office, Evelyn's growth rippled through her personal life. She worked to heal the fractured relationship with her son, making a conscious effort to be present and engage. She attended every recital, every parent-teacher conference, and every quiet moment between. Her son noticed the change and often expressed how proud he was of her, not just for what she'd accomplished, but for the strength and grace she showed daily. Evelyn also rekindled friendships that had faded during the years she was consumed by work and betrayal. She found solace in these connections, realizing that vulnerability and support were vital parts of leadership and healing. Mentorship became another pillar of her growth. She embraced the role of guide and advocate for other women in tech, sharing her story candidly, the triumphs, the setbacks, and the lessons learned. In one memorable mentorship session, a young woman confided in Evelyn about feeling invisible in her own company. Evelyn shared her journey, encouraging her mentee to document her contributions, seek allies, and most importantly, believe in her own worth. That moment was a reminder that growth wasn't just personal, it was communal. By lifting others, Evelyn strengthened the very foundation of the industry she loved. Leadership at Northbridge Insight evolved under Evelyn's guidance. She cultivated a culture where innovation flourished alongside empathy. Regular team check-ins, open forums for ideas and concerns, and celebrations of both small wins and big milestones created a vibrant, inclusive environment. Evelyn encouraged experimentation and accepted failures as essential steps toward progress. This approach not only boosted morale but attracted top talent eager to work in a place that valued authenticity and growth. Her humility and openness fostered trust. Employees knew they were seen and valued, not just as workers but as people. One afternoon, during a casual team lunch, Maya, the brilliant software architect who had joined early on, raised a toast. To Evelyn, Maya said, glass raised, for teaching us that strength is about more than power. It's about heart, resilience, and the courage to keep going when things get tough. The room erupted in applause. Evelyn felt a warmth spread through her. This wasn't just about reclaiming what was stolen, it was about becoming someone who could inspire and empower others. Yet growth wasn't always easy. Evelyn faced moments of exhaustion and self-doubt, the pressure to prove herself as a CEO, the weight of responsibility for her team and family, and the echoes of past betrayals sometimes threatened to overwhelm her. In those moments, she turned to mindfulness practices, meditation, journaling, and quiet walks in the Austin Hills. These rituals grounded her, reminding her of her purpose and inner strength. She also leaned on Nina, her trusted attorney and friend, whose steady support was a beacon during difficult times. Through this journey, Evelyn redefined success on her own terms. It wasn't about titles or money, but about integrity, impact, and the ability to live authentically. Her story became a powerful testament to the fact that true growth requires courage, the courage to face pain, to forgive oneself, to take risks, and to keep moving forward. As Northbridge Insight grew, Evelyn's vision expanded beyond technology. She dreamed of a future where companies nurtured their creators, where credit was shared fairly, and where every voice was heard. She began speaking at conferences and writing articles on leadership, resilience, and equity in tech. Her message resonated widely, touching those who had faced invisibility and injustice. And through it all, Evelyn remained grounded by one truth she had learned the hard way. You are your own fiercest advocate. No one else can claim your worth for you. Growth is not linear. It is a journey of reclaiming power, rebuilding trust in yourself, and standing tall, even when the world tries to erase you. Evelyn stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of her office, gazing out over the Austin skyline as the sun dipped below the horizon. The city lights began to twinkle, a reminder of the countless lives touched by the technology she and her team had built. But more than that, they symbolized her own journey, from shadows of invisibility to a place of undeniable presence and power. The road had been long and winding. There were nights when she doubted herself, moments of despair when the weight of betrayal threatened to crush her spirit. She remembered the silence after the launch, the sting of stolen credit, and the loneliness of fighting an invisible battle. Yet, here she was, stronger, wiser, and fiercely determined. Her success wasn't measured just by the contracts or the rising stock price. It was measured by the courage she'd found to reclaim her story and the resilience she'd nurtured to build something authentic. Evelyn had learned that true power comes not from titles or recognition but from the relentless belief in one's own worth. She thought back to her son's words at his dance recital, "Mom, you smile more now." That smile was the real victory, proof that she was living fully and authentically, no longer defined by others' narratives but by her own. Evelyn's story was one of transformation, not just personal but cultural. Through her leadership, Northbridge Insight wasn't merely a tech company, it was a beacon for fairness, respect, and innovation. Her team thrived in an environment where voices were heard and contributions honored. At recent conferences, Evelyn had shared her journey with thousands, speaking openly about invisibility, betrayal, and the power of reclaiming one's voice. She encouraged others to document their work, stand firm in their convictions, and never underestimate their own strength. She knew many still struggled in silence, trapped by fear or uncertainty. But Evelyn's experience proved that the quietest voices, once heard, could roar louder than any corporate decree. One evening, as she walked her son home from school, a colleague from a rival firm approached her. "Evelyn," she said, "your story inspired me to fight for my own rights at work." "Thank you." Those words settled deep in Evelyn's heart. Her fight had become more than her own, it was a beacon for others lost in the shadows. Yet, Evelyn never forgot the lessons learned in the darkest hours. She remained vigilant, aware that power could be fleeting and respect easily lost. She led with humility, openness, and a commitment to justice. Her company's future was bright, but it was the legacy she was building that mattered most, a legacy where creators were valued, integrity reigned, and no one would ever feel invisible again. Looking back, Evelyn knew that the moment she stopped asking for permission to be seen was the moment everything changed. It was a simple, powerful truth. You don't need validation to own your worth. You don't need approval to claim your place. Sometimes, all it takes is the courage to stand up, speak out, and say, "This is mine." As the stars glittered above Austin, Evelyn whispered a quiet promise to herself, to keep fighting, keep building, and keep shining, not just for her, but for everyone who believed in the power of their own voice. Because every story matters, every voice deserves to be heard, and every person has the strength to claim their rightful place in the world. The most powerful lesson Evelyn learned through her journey was simple but profound. Never let anyone else define your worth or write your story for you. When you stay silent in the face of injustice, you risk becoming invisible, not just to others, but to yourself. But reclaiming your voice is a courageous act of self-love and empowerment. Evelyn realized that success isn't just about hard work or talent, it's about standing firm, protecting your contributions, and demanding respect. You don't need permission to claim what's yours. Sometimes, the world won't give you recognition, you have to take it. Her experience showed that setbacks and betrayal, while painful, can be catalysts for growth and transformation if met with clarity, courage, and persistence. True power comes from within, from refusing to be erased or silenced. If you ever find yourself overlooked, undervalued, or erased, remember Evelyn's story. Document everything. Keep records of your work, contributions, and agreements. This creates clarity and protection. Seek allies and expert advice. Whether it's a mentor, a legal expert, or trusted colleagues, support can be your greatest strength. Speak up with confidence. Don't wait for others to recognize your value. Assert your rights respectfully and firmly. Build your own path. Sometimes, the best way forward is creating new opportunities rather than waiting for validation from the old system. Prioritize self-care and resilience. Healing and growth are ongoing processes. Nurture your mind and spirit throughout. Your voice matters, your work matters, and you have the power to reclaim both, even when the odds seem stacked against you. Thank you for choosing to listen to this story among thousands of stories out there. Like and subscribe to continue listening to the latest stories.